gas at $4 a gallon, doing my bit for global warming. Driven when I could have flown, and I couldn't quite explain why, not even to myself. I'd wanted to rumble through Ohio and Pennsylvania in the midst of another sullen American July, the fifth straight summer of our discontent, even the movies taken away by an orange-haired psychopath. I didn't see much, though. I rolled down the awful Pennsylvania Turnpike after dark and then chased a hotel room on I-70 until I hit Columbus at 4 a.m. "Show us the real birth certificate," a billboard in PA urged. But aside from that cri de droite, I didn't see many Obama or Romney bumper stickers, didn't detect much interest in what either side had to say. Maybe folks were just too hot to care. The next afternoon, as Ohio turned into Indiana into Illinois, the air dried out and the cornstalk shrank. I started to understand why I'd been reading about a modern dust bowl. In southern Illinois, the streams were mud holes. I pulled off the highway at a barbecue joint 100 miles from St. Louis and heard from the high schoolers behind the counter that they hadn't seen more than a hint of rain since early March. "March?" I said, stupidly. 5 months without rain seemed impossible. Yep, March. I shut up and ate my barbecue and got back on the road. The Mississippi was still flowing, though, still a mile wide. The Mississippi's a magnificent river, the second longest in the world, the freshwater link between the Midwest and the Gulf of Mexico. The Mississippi is home to Huck and Tom, the birthplace of the blues. In theory, anyway. In reality, the Mississippi looks like a pot of refried beans that ought to come with a hepatitis shot on the side. Ocean liners cruise the Hudson. The Mississippi's ship traffic runs more to grain barges. Its bridges are just as boring. Jumbles of steel, erector sets thrown together by a particularly dull kid. On the plus side, they probably don't encourage jumpers the way that the George Washington or the Golden Gate do. Who'd want to spend eternity getting nibbled by Asian carp? I cruised off the Martin Luther King Jr. Bridge, parked and grabbed my bags, trudged towards my hotel. Have I mentioned the heat? I found myself surrounded by cheery-looking people dressed in red shorts, T-shirts, caps, pants, socks. Red underwear, for all I knew. They were walking south, moving about as fast as the river. Aha! The Cardinals must be in town. After I check in, I'll head over to the stadium. I hadn't been a New York Times reporter all those years for nothing. I'd come to St. Louis to investigate the death of Adrienne Martin, a 27-year-old ex-waitress, wannabe model, and all-around good-time girl. In December 2010, Adrienne overdosed on cocaine and oxycodone at the mansion of her boyfriend, Busch IV, the former chief executive of Anheuser-Busch. She'd left an 8-year-old son behind. In truth, I wasn't sure how much I'd find. I worried that getting anyone from the Busch clan to talk would be impossible. People in St. Louis called August the IV to distinguish him from his dad, the III, who'd run Anheuser-Busch with a famously iron fist for almost 30 years. The third had always been distant. He'd helicopter to work each day from his estate west of St. Louis. In retirement, the third had nearly vanished. The fourth had been known as friendlier than his dad, but in recent years he too had holed up. Still, the story of the fallen heir and the dead waitress fascinated me. Of all the giant companies begun in the 19th century, Standard Oil, Coca-Cola, Carnegie Steel, I could think of only one other whose family had held control for so long. The first generation builds the business, the second enjoys it, the third wrecks it, the saying went. Or, as Andrew Carnegie himself had said, 3 generations in America from shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves. I didn't mind shirt sleeves myself, but those old-school moguls preferred suits, even in the summer. But the Bushes never went back to shirt sleeves. Control of Anheuser-Busch passed from Adolphus Busch to August Sr. to Adolphus III to August Jr., known as Gussie, to the third, to the fourth. 6 Bushes and 5 generations. They turned Budweiser into one of the world's best-known brands, made tens of billions of dollars for themselves and their shareholders. By the time August Busch IV took over as chief executive in 2006, the company controlled nearly half the United States beer market, the world's largest and most profitable. That year, AB had sales of $18 billion, profits of $2 billion, and 30,000 employees. But the forced reign didn't last. In June 2008, a group of Brazilian businessmen running a brewer called InBev offered to buy Anheuser. Remarkably, Brazilians